So far in the book of the prophet Haggai, we've heard him speak with authority to those who have positions of leadership and to the people about their neglect of the temple of the Lord. And today, our verse of the day is chapter 1, verse 14, which shows what happens next. And the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people, and they came and worked on the house of the Lord of hosts, their God. What I want to focus on today is this image of God stirring up the spirit of the governor, the high priest, and the remnant of the people. Oftentimes in our journey through the Bible, we've seen how when there is a need, when there's a crisis, when there's an opportunity, how God often stirs up the spirit of someone to respond. If you think, you go all the way back to someone like Moses, to Joshua, we can look back at the book of Judges and how God would stir up the spirit of a leader who then rose to an important moment like Deborah or Samson. And here, at a time when there's a critical need, the temple of the Lord is neglected, it lies in ruins, nothing's been done, it hasn't been rebuilt. Thanks to the influence of God's prophet, now God's Spirit starts to stir people. And I think it's an interesting combination of it often takes a prophet speaking God's word in combination with the Spirit of God. That word and spirit often is what motivates people and moves them to action. And even in our own work as a church today in the 21st century, we rely on the same formula, if you will. It's why we preach from God's word, why we encourage you to read, to listen to God's word, to follow devotions like this, because a combination of hearing God's word and God's Spirit at work and in us is often what stirs and motivates people to action. It's part of how the church through the centuries has responded to needs, whether needs in their community and individual lives or larger national or global issues. You could even think of someone like William Wilberforce in England and all of his work against slavery, which was motivated, stirred up both by his knowledge of the Bible and God's Spirit motivating him to correct that injustice. So here we see the Lord stirring up the spirit of the leaders and the people to act. What stirring do you sense in your spirit from God? How might God be calling you to rise up and to serve and to work in response to some need, some crisis, some opportunity, whether in an individual's life who you know, here in the church, or in some larger sense? I believe God's Spirit is still living and active and still looking for hearts and lives to stir who will respond.